My name is Moonfall. I will be presenting to you in this TED Talk, the number one, how to be the number one hospital in the country. So my topic is how hospital can use knowledge management and learning environment to in healthcare workers during the competency training for better health services delivery. So my choice of the topic is to the choice of the topic is to deliver you a framework that will give health organizations tool on how to create a learning environment, how to have a better knowledge management in training of healthcare workers using a knowledge management tool to deliver better health services in underserved community. I choose this topic because I live in the NMIC for most of my life, and our communities are confronted with organization where learning environment is not promoted, mostly due to management, leadership, and the working environment. But if that was implanted, if knowledge management was implanted and the learning environment created by the leaders of this hospital, I think great change could take place. So this TED Talk will provide a framework on for a successful working environment that may lead to positive outcome in providing better care for underserved community. So I'm gonna first define learning environment, and as you can see in this chart, in order for an organization to have a continuous learning environment, it requires transparency, it requires issue orientation, it requires accountability, and it requires valid information. And all of this has to be installed by the organization. Um, yeah, so as Peter Senge coded here, an organization that encourage and facilitate learning in order to continually transform itself to survive and excel in a rapidly changing business environment. So by having all these four tools, it will promote uh, continuous learning. But the organization has first to look at how their people are interacting, how they are communicating, and how they are collaborating. Because learning is defined as a change in knowledge or change in behavior that occur as a function as a function of experience. So by having this continuous learning, they are able to develop that learning environment, and learning individuals members are the mechanism through which these organizational learning occur. And and there are different stage of a learning organization, and it depends that at how well individual learning is transferred from the individual into the organization learning. So in a learning environment also, they have to encourage collaborative exploration and also continuous learning and change. And in order for the continuous learning environment to be implemented, and the learning uh, culture has to encourage also safe sharing of information, diversity in perspective, openness to change at every level in the organization. So they have to encourage employee to expand their knowledge, skills, and opportunity in order to innovate. And the uh, and we notice that the structures that allow for collaboration, sharing and access to key influences within an organization lead to great learning for individual and teams. So people, if you want your organization to succeed, you have to create a good um, sense of comfort in learning zone, and because individuals are more likely to be open to learning to new things, changing during transformation effort, if the learning environment uh, is very comfortable for them. Like they feel like they are able to share their thought without uh, having any backlash or like any bad feedback from the information. So the environment play a big role in this learning environment, in this learning curve. So the second section that I will be discussing will be knowledge management. So as Davenport stated, knowledge management is the process of capturing, distributing, and effectively using knowledge. And as you can see in the chart, if you have knowledge from an employee, so a knowledge is created and it has to be stored, and after being stored it has to be used by the organization, and after using it has to be refined, so like we can put it in the organizational knowledge management system, so it can be transferred to the other system and be shared in the organization. And for that you need leaders. Leaders are the champion for change in the learning organization. So for that, like you have that to have adaptability and openness to change are critical for successful development of a learning environment. So you can have a lot of knowledge, but if people are not open to change, this would not be a transfer in the organization. And for that, and for knowledge to be shared and stored and transfer, it needs systems. And so the knowledge management is a discipline that promotes an integrated approach to identifying, capturing, and evaluating and retrieving and sharing all of the enterprise information assets. So we noticed that the the organization that are committed to learning have to invest in those knowledge management system. And this management system can be have both a technical and a non-technical component. And in order to succeed, in order to achieve a successful knowledge sharing and continuous learning, you need to have those tools of knowledge management and continuous learning tools in your organization. So the next step that I'm going to be talking about is organization transformation. So organization transformation is a strategic method of getting your organization from where you are now to where you will need to be in the future. So for that, you need leaders. Like you have leaders has a role to turn separate initiative into a balanced, integrated program of change. And they have to encourage and facilitate learning in order to continually transform itself to survive and excel in a rapidly changing environment. And unit collaboration also is required for successful transformation. And transformation involve change at multiple level across the team. So unit integration and collaboration is required for successful transformation. Feedback loop must be considered and understood at the system level so that appropriate change can take place and appropriate resources can be allocated. And transformation involve change at multiple level across. So learning organization need to monitor and learn from every change that is happening, and 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 make sure they apply all of those change for future effort. So they notice that in a learning environment, and the faster individual within the organization can bounce back from failure, the faster the organization can build resilience and focus on the next success. And they need that resilience in order to take on challenge, in order to be committed, and in order to focus to what they want to control. So putting it all together, talking about learning environment, knowledge management, and how to create an organization transformation. So I think that for better health service in LMIC, a learning environment need to be in place by leaders and develop knowledge management with the available technological tools that are available on the ground. So the learning environment must match the need of the working environment with the knowledge system tool available in the health system. By that I mean that if you are in a underserved community, you have to make sure like the knowledge system that you need are affordable by that community. Because if you bring a high tech tools being trying to implement it in those community, it will not work because it will be not sustainable. So you have to use the tools that those communities need and they can afford. And learning organization must lead the people who want to see change. So healthcare workers must be motivated to see a positive change in their working environment. So, and the leader can do that by removing any barrier in their environment and successfully communicate the vision. Healthcare workers need to also feel be psychologically safe to share their thought among them and also the leadership. So creating that safe environment and getting the feedback and information chain between them will bring change to the organization. So by that, in LMIC is very because the most of the organization have a lot of bureaucracy. So a lot of information are not shared well, and people do not receive feedback. And people are very scared of challenging authorities because they don't want to risk their job. So by creating that psychological safety, I think is a priority in this specific community. If they create that psychological safety net, I think they will be able to receive a lot of feedback from their employee on how to bring change and then improving their healthcare delivery. So in order to attain an optimal learning environment, so organization need to manage knowledge. So they first need to understand their employee and consider the whole person, not just part of them. So organization need to make sure employees are valued at their maximum, and so they will be able to perform optimally at their job. So they need to make sure they are also psychologically safe. Um, in LMIC, from my experience, um, employee do not feel like they can bring their whole self to work. I think like they have to come very professional, very all the time, and maybe they will be not able to share everything with their leaders, and that can be barrier to improvement and to be successful. And if they remove that barrier uh, of of not um, having mm, a negative feedback from them, or just not receiving like the feedback that I want from them, their job wouldn't be jeopardized. So I think uh, to close this chapter, I think in order to attain organizational transformation in LMIC, we need to implement knowledge management and create learning environments. And if we do that, we'll be able to deliver great health service. Okay, here are my reference. Thank you.